You ever notice how people look at you different when you've got nothing in your pockets? Not empty nothing, like the space around you bends a little, like poverty has its own gravity. They walk past you faster, talk to you slower, like struggle makes you stupid. Like if your shoes are worn down, your soul must be too. But here's the joke they don't see coming, the real punchline. The moment you stop believing you belong in the dirt, everything shifts. No magic tricks, no fairy godmother, just a decision deep, dangerous, and final. Wealth, it doesn't come wrapped in gold or parked in a shiny driveway. No, it starts much quieter than that. Starts in the shadows where no one's looking, in a little thought that creeps up your spine when the world's asleep and the word was a fleer for everyone else's play by the door. It starts when you get tired of saying this is just how it is, like you've been reading lines from a script someone else wrote. You see, the cruelest trick they ever played was not taking your money, it was making you think you're poor. There's a difference. Being broke is temporary, circumstantial. It's a hiccup in the plot. But poverty, that's a character trait. A costume they make you wear so you learn to smile through the hunger. And when they give it to you, they hand it over with such confidence, such authority, you start to believe it fits. You wear it to work, to church, to dinner with people who don't ask how you're doing because they already decided what your answer will be. And slowly, you stop seeing yourself in mirrors. You see the label instead. Struggling, surviving, stuck. But here's the twisted beauty of it all, none of it is real. Not until you agree with it. Not until you give it your signature and call it your truth. You can be standing in a storm, soaked to the bone, nothing in your wallet, nothing in your fridge, and still be the richest person in the room if you just don't stop identifying with the rain. Because that's all they've got on you. Agreement, compliance. You nod your head one too many times and suddenly the cage you're in isn't made of iron, it's made of icers. This is my life now. And who gave you that idea? Who told you wealth was for them and not for you? Was it the man in the suit who's never missed a meal? Was it the teacher who taught you how to count but not how to value yourself? Or was it the voice in your own head, trained to bark like a guard dog every time you step too close to a dream? Not for you, it growls. That's for the chosen ones. But what if the only thing separating them from you is audacity? The pure, reckless audacity to say this identity no longer fits. And that's where it begins. Not in a bank account, not in a loan approval, in the rejection of the label, in the violent, liberating act of saying I refuse to be poor in my mind just because my circumstances look like chaos. Because they can take your job, your car, your reputation, but they can't take your internal definition unless you hand it over. They can't stamp you with worthless unless you stand still long enough for the ink to dry. It's not easy. Oh no, you'll be surrounded by people who love when you play small, who celebrate your humility, not because it's noble, but because it keeps them comfortable. If you rise, it forces them to question why they're still crawling, so they'll mock your vision, laugh at your plans, quote statistics at you like scripture. Most businesses fail, most people stay broke, most people never make it out. And you're supposed to nod and agree, because if most people stay poor, then maybe you should too. Safety in numbers, right, wrong. See, most people isn't a destiny, it's a trap. And you don't owe it your loyalty. Just because you were born into a cycle doesn't mean you die in it. Just because your father struggled, your mother scraped, your whole damn family learned to stretch every penny like it was holy doesn't mean that's word in it. It means that was their reality. But you can write something else, something bigger, something louder. But first you have to drop the script. Burn it if you're feeling theatrical. Because the moment you stop identifying as poor, you start seeing cracks in the illusion. You start hearing the chains rattle when they move. And eventually you stop dancing to the tune they used to keep you quiet. You'll walk different, talk different. Think in terms of ownership, not just survival, and they won't like it. Oh, they'll try to pull you back, remind you of your place. But the beautiful thing about awakening, once you've seen the game for what it is, you can't unsee it. And suddenly the beggar stops begging, the pawn stops bowing, And the world, the very same world that used to step over you, starts to shift. Just a little. Under the weight of someone who finally decided to stop agreeing with the lie that they were meant to be small. They fed it to you with a grin, like a spoonful of medicine you didn't ask for. Survival. That's the word. That's the trick. Wrapped in struggle, dipped in tradition, served cold every morning with a side of fear. Just survive, they say. Make ends meet. Be grateful you've got anything at all. And at first it makes sense. When the bills pile up and the rent breathes down your neck like a wolf, yeah, survival feels like victory. But here's the part they don't tell you: while you're busy surviving, they're living. While you're counting coins, they're stacking empires. While you're rationing dreams, they're writing the rules of the game you're too exhausted to question. It's cute, really, the way they romanticize it. Hard work, hustle, grind, but what they're really saying is stay tired, stay distracted. Keep chasing just enough so you never have the strength to reach for more. Because if you ever stopped running and started thinking, you might realize the cage door's been open this whole time. You might realize that survival isn't noble, it's just another leash, Jess. A leash with just enough slack to make you believe you're free. And oh, they'll praise you for it. Celebrate your suffering like it's some kind of virtue. Look at you, still smiling through the pain, still pushing forward, so strong. And they'll clap, not for you, for themselves. Because your obedience confirms their comfort. Your endurance makes their system look justified. But deep down you feel it, don't you? That sting, that itch, that quiet rage that asks, is this all there is? See, they're not scared of your failure. No, they expect that. What keeps them up at night is the idea that you might wake up one day and realize survival is just the first layer. That there's another level of abundance, and it doesn't come from working harder. It comes from refusing to be hypnotized by scarcity. From unlearning everything they've drilled into your skull since you were old enough to say, I want. Because want is dangerous, want is rebellion. Want says, I see the scraps you gave me, and I choose something more. That's when they panic. That's when they tighten the leash, raise the prices, flood your feed with glittery distractions. Buy this, follow them, stay busy. Because if you're busy, you're not building. If you're chasing crumbs, you're not questioning the baker. If you're drowning in survival, you'll never make time to design your escape. It's all built on one ugly little secret: they never planned for you to win. They need you chasing, not catching. Needing, not only. They need you tired, desperate, impressed. Because impressed people don't rebel. Impressed people don't tear down the walls, they decorate them. But what happens when you stop clapping? What happens when you start asking questions that don't have pretty answers? When you look at your paycheck, your pay rent, your life, and you start to laugh, not the happy kind, the unhinged kind, the kind that says, oh, I finally get it now. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. The layers, the masks, the way they teach you to shrink so early, so young, so subtly that by the time you realize it, you're already halfway buried in night. They made survival your finish line when it was only ever supposed to be your starting gun, and you believed them. Of course you did. They were louder, older. Louder, did I say that twice? Good. Because repetition is how they programmed you, and it's how you're gonna break it. Start small. Question one thing. Just one. That price tag. That job. That rule. Ask yourself, who benefits if I accept this without a fight? And suddenly you'll start to see the strings. Not just the ones on you, but on them too. Because they're puppets too, trapped in a performance where they pretend to be in control. But real control that lives in the hands of anyone crazy enough to reject survival and demand something better. It doesn't take money. It doesn't take connections. It takes a moment. A flicker. A crack in the illusion where your real self slips through and asks, what if I stop playing by their rules? And once that voice shows up, it doesn't leave. It grows, it roars, it laughs in the face of struggle and spits on the altar of sacrifice. Because you were never meant to crawl through life hoping for scraps. You were meant to take up space, break the system, and make them regret ever thinking you'd be satisfied with surviving. You ever watch someone sit in a locked room with the key in their pocket? It's a funny little tragedy, really. They cry, they scream, they curse the walls, all while the way out is tapping their leg with every breath they take. That's how this game works. They don't have to chain your hands, just your thinking. You want to know the real poverty? It's not hunger. It's not debt. It's when you start believing you're supposed to be here. When the lack around you becomes a language, and you start speaking it like it's your mother tongue. You think, act, walk like someone who's forgotten what it means to want something more. And it starts young, doesn't it? That's too expensive. We can't afford that. People like us don't live like that. Boom. Just like that, a seed gets planted. A little weed called limitation. And it grows fast, wild, untamed. Until one day you look around and realize you built your whole life inside a mental prison. And you're decorating the bars. Hanging up fairy lights on ceilings that were always meant to be shattered. And worst of all, you start teaching the next person to do the same. Legacy, they call it. Generational wisdom. But it's just recycled fear, gift wrapped in tradition. You see someone driving the car you want, wearing the watch you admire, walking into the restaurant you pass by every night like it's a museum, and you tell yourself, it's not for me. Not in anger, not in jealousy, just acceptance. As if life handed out fates like playing cards, and you were born with a 2 of spades while they walked in with 4 aces and a grin. But here's the joke, they're not special. They're not chosen. They're just untrained. No one taught them to bow. No one taught them to settle. They walked in and asked for more because it never occurred to them that they couldn't. Meanwhile, you're taught to survive with dignity, to smile while struggling, to say thank you when you're handed leftovers. But the moment you stop calling poverty your personality, the whole script glitches. People look at you like you've committed a crime. Who do you think you are? They'll ask, eyes wide with fear wrapped in concern. Because your growth challenges their comfort. Your ambition exposes their excuses. You becoming more becomes a mirror to everything they've buried under this is just life. But you know what's funny? You've always known, you've felt it. That itch under your skin when someone talks down to you. That pulse in your chest when you dream too loud. That burning behind your eyes when someone tells you to just be realistic. That's not ego. That's memory. That's your soul remembering it was never poor, just disoriented. And when you start tapping into that memory, oh, they'll hate it. They'll laugh at you, call you delusional, say you've changed, as if that's a bad thing. Because here's the trick, they want you in the club, but only as long as you know your place. The moment you stop playing poor, they revoke your access. You're not relatable anymore. You're not one of us, but that's the tax, that's the price of waking up. You lose the comfort of community built on complaining. You lose the applause of people who never wanted you to want to rise higher than the ceiling they built over their own head. But what you gain, oh what you gain. The air's different when you stop choking on lack. Time stretches when you're not counting coins. And real people start showing up. Not the ones who want you small, but the ones who remember what it means to dream loud, move strange, and burn bridges just to feel the heat of progress. And you start laughing. Not politely, not nervously. The kind of laugh that tastes like rebellion. That says, I was never supposed to wear this mask. And it echoes long and sharp. Until even the walls built to keep you in start cracking from the sound. They didn't fear your hunger. They feared your clarity. The second you stop seeing yourself as poor, their entire structure starts wobbling. Because you were never the weak one. You were just the one they had to keep blind. And when that blindness lifts, even for a second, you see the empire of lies they built around you, and you start to grin. Not because you're angry, Not because you're hurt, but because for the first time in a long time, you know who you are without the noise, without the shame, without the disguise they gave you and called survival. You ever notice how the world starts treating you differently the second you get a little taste of money? Not even the big bucks, just enough to stop sweating every bill, stop flinching every time your phone lights up with a reminder. Suddenly, the same people who looked through you are nodding, smiling, acting like you were always one of them. Isn't it sweet, that fake politeness, that polite panic? Because you've become dangerous now. Not because of what's in your wallet, but because of what it proves that you weren't the problem. And maybe, just maybe, you were never broke, just temporarily underfunded. They loved you poor. Loved you small, humble, grateful, predictable. Oh, they'll never say it out loud. No, they'll dress it up. Stay grounded. Don't change. Money isn't everything. You hear that one a lot when you start crawling out of the mud. But here's the twist: they only say that to people who never had it. People who are just beginning to stretch their wings. Because if you do change, if you do grow, they lose their favorite thing about you, your dependence. Your silence. Your hunger tucked neatly behind a smile. See, the game's rigged, but it's a beautiful game once you learn the rules. Not their rules, yours. They'll never teach you that. They'll teach you algebra, teach you history, teach you how to say yes with your mouth while your gut screams. But never how money really works. Never how to unlearn the shame around wanting more. That part you gotta figure out on your own, through the cracks, in the quiet, in the dark. And when you do, when it finally clicks, it's like being handed the keys to a kingdom they told you didn't exist. And here's where it gets fun. Because now you've got options. And options, my friend, are terrifying to people who've built their identity around limitation. When you start saying no, when you stop chasing crumbs, when you raise your price, you raise your crumbs, raise your standards. Raise your voice, that's when the masks start to fall. You've changed, they whisper. As if that's not the whole point. As if staying the same while everything burns is some kind of noble act. You don't owe anyone your poverty. You don't owe with them your guilt. You don't owe them the old version of you that used to beg for discounts and pray for a break. You outgrew that costume. Doesn't matter if it made them comfortable. Doesn't matter if they clapped for your suffering. You're not here for sympathy. You're not here to play the mascot for misery. You're here to burn through every lie they told you about your worth, your potential, your ceiling. And oh, they'll get nervous when you start walking different. When you stop explaining yourself. When you show up to the room and own it, instead of hoping they'll let you stay. Because confidence in someone they used to pity, that's offensive. That's a glitch in their matrix. They'd rather you stay a motivational poster than become a living, breathing example that the system can be beaten. Because if you win, then what's their excuse? They'll call it luck, timing, external help. Anything but what it really is: choice. The decision to stop accepting scraps. To stop calling struggle a personality. To stop applauding your own suffering like it's some kind of medal. The decision to rise even when it means standing alone. Especially then. Because when you rise, you don't just change your life, you expose every single person still pretending they're trapped. And yeah, it gets lonely. Of course it does. Growth always does. But loneliness hits different when your fridge is full, your bills are paid, your peace is bought in cash. It's not about greed. It's not about showing off. It's about proving that freedom exists. That the dream they laughed at, mocked, minimized, it was real all along. Just hidden behind a thick fog of fear and familiar failure. They'll want you back. Not because they miss you, but because they miss the version of you that didn't.